This is Paula at the Barkman branch, and this is Paula's Picks at Barkman. Today I'm going to read you stories about the wind. The first one I'd like to read to you is called Flora's Very Windy Day by Jean Birdsall and illustrated by Matt Phelan. Flora's Very Windy Day. There's Flora and her little brother, and he spilled the paint. Mommy! Crispin spilled my paints again, shrieked Flora. I told you to keep your paints out of his reach, said her mother. I tried, said Flora, but... Oh, look at the mess outside, Flora, right now. I can't go outside, protested Flora. The wind is very strong and will blow me away. Nonsense, said her mother. Flora thought for a moment. Of course, I could wear my super special heavy-duty red boots. They'll keep me from being blown away. Fine, said her mother, and take Crispin with you. Now, Crispin did not have super special heavy-duty red boots to protect him from the wind. His boots were purple and couldn't do anything except keep his feet dry. Oh, well, Flora thought, it wouldn't be my fault if Crispin blows away. So Flora put on her coat and hat and her super special heavy-duty red boots. And her mother put Crispin into his little coat and hat and regular old purple boots. And when all that was done, Flora's mother opened the door and Flora and Crispin stepped outside. The wind was indeed very strong that day. It pushed and pulled and twirled and twisted. But no matter how hard it blew, Flora stayed firmly on the ground. Ha ha, you dumb wind, said Flora. You can't lift me up because I'm wearing my super special heavy-duty red boots. The wind did not like being laughed at. It disabled its strength and blasted mightily at Flora, but still she didn't budge. However, said Flora, you may notice that my little brother is wearing regular old purple boots. Now the wind tripled its strength. It swirled and swooped and whizzed and walloped, and then, oh my, Crispin was being lifted off the ground. Just a little bit at first, but the wind grew stronger and Crispin went higher and then higher and then higher still. He was being blown away. He looked frightened. And suddenly, Flora was kicking off her super special heavy-duty red boots and spreading her coat to the wind, and oh my, she was sailing up toward Crispin. She grabbed his hand and closed her eyes and wished she were anywhere else in the world. But soon, Flora realized that being blown by the wind was comfortable, like riding along on a squishy flying chair. She decided to open her eyes. Just then, they came upon a dragonfly. Will you give me that little boy, said the dragonfly. He could polish my wings. Silly dragonfly, scolded Flora. She knew that Crispin was much too clumsy to clean such delicate wings. He's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, says the dragonfly. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon a sparrow. Will you give me that little boy, asked the sparrow. He could sit on my eggs. What a mess that would be, said Flora, as if Crispin could sit on eggs without breaking them. He's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, said the sparrow. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon a rainbow. Will you give me that little boy, asked the rainbow. He could guard my pot of gold. Gold? That was tempting. But, thought Flora, Crispin's not fierce enough to guard anything. No, he's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, says the rainbow. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon a cloud. Will you give me that little boy, asked the cloud. He could squeeze out my raindrops. Flora thought that squeezing out raindrops sounded like fun, but Crispin would surely catch a cold, and then who would help him with his nose. No, I won't give him to you. He's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, said the cloud. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon an eagle. Will you give me that little boy? Asked the eagle. He could sharpen my talons. You can't fool me, Flora said. She saw the hungry look in the eagle's eyes. He's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, says the eagle. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon the man in the moon. Will you give me that little boy? Asked the man in the moon. It's lonely up here, and he could keep me company. The man in the moon had a kind face, and he did look awfully lonely. But there were no chocolate chip cookies on the moon, and Crispin was so fond of chocolate chip cookies. I'm sorry, but I can't, said Flora. He's my brother, and I'm taking him home. If the wind lets you, said the man in the moon. Flora stomped her foot, or would have if there was anything to stomp on. I'm tired of hearing that. Why won't the wind let us go home? You should ask him, said the man in the moon. Flora hadn't thought of that. Oh, wind, will you let us go home? I'll let you go home as soon as we find the right spot for Crispin, replied the wind. You do want to get rid of him, right? Yes, I did. Flora wasn't sure what she meant. Because I could even use him myself, said the wind, to work my bellows. No, thank you, Flora had finally decided. I should take him home. My mother wouldn't like it if I lost him. If that's what you really want, said the wind. Yes, please, said Flora. So the wind turned Flora and Crispin around and blew them home. Flora put her super special heavy-duty red boots back on, then straightened Crispin's hat and brushed a shred of rainbow from his coat. She rang the doorbell, and her mother opened the door. I decided to bring Crispin back, Flora told her. From where? Asked her mother. From the moon, said Flora. Nonsense, said her mother. Now come inside. I've made chocolate chip cookies. There she is, eating with her brother. Flora's very windy day. Now let me read you another book called Good Night, Wind. It is written by Linda Elowitz Marshall, and it is illustrated by Maya Dulivo. Good Night, Wind. And I am reading this with permission from Holiday House Publishing. Winter wind worked hard all season long, blowing away leaves, preparing trees for coats of snow and ice. Wind blasted snow across fields and roads, sculpting drifts for children to play in. Whoosh! Now winter time was almost over. The tired wind shuffled into town, searching for a place to rest. With long, cold fingers, wind tapped at the windows of cozy homes. But inside, the people only shivered and drew their blankets closer. So winter wind nestled into the chimney until warm spring breezes chased him away. Winter wind huffed off to a field, settled under a tree, and tried to sleep. Youch! Grumbled the tree. Something icy is freezing my roots. Don't be angry, tree. It's me, wind. Remember when I blew away your leaves, getting you ready for winter? I'm old now, tired, and I need a place to rest. I too am tired, the tree replied. It's been a long, cold season, and if I don't take care of my roots, I may not live through spring. I cannot help you, wind. Down the road is a big rock. Perhaps you can rest there. Winter wind drifted toward the big rock, laid down, and rested. Yikes! Shrieked the rock. Who's lying on me? Just me, Winter Wind sighed. An old wandering wind searching for a place to rest. What? Exclaimed the rock. You can't just throw yourself on someone like that. You need to ask permission. As for me, I'm cold and dry and ready to crack. And you come along and plop yourself on me. Off with you. Winter Wind pushed off, trudging along down the road. When at last a country inn appeared, Wind blew open the door and whoosh, swept inside. Out! Shouted the innkeeper. She slammed the door shut. Angry Winter Wind blasted out across the fields, crying like a child, howling like a dog, wailing like a cat. With sleeves rolled up and feet stomping, Wind whipped up a whistling, screeching blizzard. Take that, shrieked Wind, and that, and that. Snow hurled to the ground and gusted back to the sky, whirling in huge white sheets. Wind blasted mountains of snows onto coastal village and inland towns. Wind pounded against the windows of cabins, cottages, and mansions. Shutters closed, doors slammed. All around, darkness fell, but not a soul could sleep. In a small mountain cabin, a frightened little boy cried and cried. His sister wrapped herself in a blanket, took a deep breath, and threw open the door. Wind, she called. You're scaring my little brother. Stop pounding on our windows. Winter Wind heard, felt sorry for the girl and her brother, and stopped pounding on the windows. Instead, Wind howled into the chimney. The little boy cried louder. His sister ran to the fireplace, peered into the chimney, and shouted, Stop! But Winter Wind blew snow in her face. Wind is acting like a tired, angry baby, the girl told her brother. The little boy wiped his eyes and asked, Maybe Wind needs a nap. His sister smiled. Good idea. I know just the place. They put on coats and went outside. Come, Wind, the girl said. We know where you can rest. Hearing this, Winter Wind grew quieter. The snow stopped falling. The children led Wind to a cave. Inside, the little girl piled leaves to make a bed. Leaves are nice for sleeping on, she said. And for jumping in, the little boy added. Thank you for blowing them from the trees. And for making snowdrifts, said his sister. Winter Wind smiled and like a tired baby curled up to sleep. Good night, Wind, said the girl. Sleep tight, said her brother. Spring passed. Summer arrived. The day grew long. When it was too hot to play outside, the girl and her brother visited the cool cave to check on their friend. Shh, quiet, they whispered. Don't wake the wind. Fall returned. Winter Wind awoke. Feeling fresh and young again, Wind blew away leaves, preparing trees for ice and snow. And when winter came, Wind blasted snow across fields and roads, sculpting drifts for children to play in. Whoosh! And this way. There you go. Good night, Wind. Very beautiful pictures in that book. Let me read you another one called Kate, Who Tamed the Wind by Liz Garton Scallon and Lee White. Kate, Who Tamed the Wind. Once there was a man living all alone in a creaking house on the tip-top of a steep hill. The man lived all alone in the creaking house on the tip-top of the steep hill where a soft wind blew. The man lived all alone in the creaking house where the curtains swung and the chimes spun as a soft wind blew and blew and blew. The wind blew until the shutters banged in the creaky house on the tip-top of the steep hill. The wind blew, the shutters banged, and the boards bent. The wind blew, the shutters banged, The boards bent, the table tipped, and the tea spilled. The tea spilled and the bread broke on the tippy table in the creaking house on the tip top of the steep hill. And still the wind blew. The wind blew, and off the birds flew. The birds flew, and the dust did too. And the man cried, "What to do? What to do?" The wind whipped its words from the tip top of the steep hill to the itty bitty town on the bottom, where a little girl called Kate heard the cry and felt it too. She wondered what on earth to do. Wind? Trees? Kate could not stop the wind, she knew, but she could wheel a load of new trees to the tip top of the dusty hill in her wagon. There Kate dug deep holes and watered muddy mounds till the trees grew. As the trees grew, the wind blew. The trees grew, the wind blew, and the time flew. The time flew as the trees grew and grew. And Kate did too. The trees grew till the leaves fluttered and the shutters stilled and the boards bounced back. The leaves fluttered, the shutters stilled, the boards bounced back, and the dust died down. The dust died down, the tea steeped, and the birds peeped. The birds peeped, and the old man poured sweet tea and said, "For you, near the quiet house, on the tip top of the green hill, where the bright breeze blew." Kate, who tamed the wind. I just have one more for you. It is called Storm, written and illustrated by Sam Usher. Nice big pictures. When I woke up this morning, the wind was rattling my windows. I couldn't wait to go outside. I said, "Granddad, we could kick up the leaves, swoop and fly, and lean into the wind." Granddad said, "It's the perfect day to fly the kite, but we'll have to find it first." Outside, the wind blew and blew. We looked for the kite in the cabinet. I said, "Granddad, it's your cricket back. I remember this." And Granddad said, "I do too." But we didn't find the kite. The wind whooshed and whistled. So we looked in the study, and I said, "Remember when you let me mail that important letter?" Granddad said, "Ah, yes, so I did. We went by boat." The wind gushed and howled. But we still hadn't found the kite. So we looked under the stairs, and I said, "Granddad, it's your telescope. Do you remember our exhibition?" Granddad said, "Yes, we went into a secret cave and had a perfect picnic." We kept searching. We thought we'd never find the kite. Then I shouted, "Granddad, look!" And Granddad said, "Yes, you found it." We were off to the park at last. The kite flew so high. Granddad said, "Hold on tight." We swooped and flew, but then I let go. But Granddad caught it. He said, "There's a storm brewing. Let's head for home." We prepared for landing. Back at home, Granddad said, "The best adventure is adventure shared." And I agreed. I hope it storms again tomorrow. That was Storm by Sam Usher. And now I have a couple of kite crafts for you. Here's the first one, made with a paper sack. So what you need is a paper sack, and it could be a white one too. And this time you can use watercolor markers because it's a paper sack. And so markers to color and make your designs. I also added a little washi tape on mine, if you can see. So duct tape, anything you want to put on to design your craft. And then you need either crepe paper or tissue paper to make these long tails. And I use multicolored ones out of crepe paper. And then you need a hole puncher and string. And you want to punch a hole. This is the little tricky part. I'm opening up the paper sack. So here's like the flat bottom. So that's where, in the middle, is where you want to punch your holes. So you have to like pop it out like that. I popped it out and then just punched a hole. And then that's where you can tie your string. I put my string on just a popsicle stick, colored popsicle stick, and these actually will fly. You can go out, if you haven't tried anything like this yet, try it, because this will fly. That's the first one. The second one I think this is just genius. Whoever thought to do this. You just need one of the plastic grocery bags, and you can decorate it. But this one you do need like Sharpies. You need more than watercolors, because if you just use watercolor markers, it'll just rub right off. So I made mine into like a cat face. Let's see if you can see it. There's his eyes. There's his little nose. And then there's his ears. And then you take the string and put the two handles together. Tie the string around the two handles. And then you can actually fly this. I just thought that was so clever of somebody to think that up. Now, you could also, on the other end, if you're giving this to little preschoolers, put like a rubber band, tie it around, and then you can put that around their wrist, and they won't lose their kite. So thank you so much for listening to my stories about wind. I hope you enjoyed them, and I'll see you next time.